one more devotee playing Kartal. Yeah. Right. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanasari Jamuna Tira Vanasari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanasari Jamuna Tira Vanasari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe Jaya Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Radhe Radha Damodar Jaya Sadhupada Jaya Sadhupada Sadhupada Gaur Pimanande Jayam Vishupad Paramahamsa Pri Rajgacharya Stotra Satya Sri Simadhe Divine Grace Srila Gauri Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya of Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namasarya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Dainitai Gaur Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Taksurimiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantitam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Svam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptaka Sanagaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Haripriye Vansakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyaeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the Supremost Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati tamashloke bhaktir bhaviti naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and a loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Pranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreya Sailokasya Dhanyam Swasaya Namaha. The Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vacharam pangum mangayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Yatkripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Yes. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 5, Chapter 5, entitled Lord Rishabhadev's Teachings, text 1.8.18. Gurur na sa syat svajano na sa syat pita nasa Syaj Janani Nasa Syat Daivam Na Tat Syan Na Patish Cha Sa Syan Na Muchayed Yaha Samupeta Mrityum Guru Nasasyat Swajano Nasasyat Pita Nasasyat Janani Nasasyat Daivam Natatsyan Napatischa Sasyan Namo Chayadya Samupeta Mrityum Guru Nasasyat Swajano Nasasyat Pita Nasasyat Janani Nasasyat Daivam Natatsyan Napatischa Sasyan Namo Chayadya Samupeta Mrityum Guru Nasasyat Swajano Nasasyat Pita Nasasyat Janani Nasasyat Daivam Natasyan Napatisya Sasyan Namo Chayadya Samupeta Mrityum
Guru Nasasya Swajano Nasasya Pita Nasasya Janani Nasasya Devam Natasya Napatisya Sasya Namo Chayetya Samupeta Mrityum
Guru Nasasya Swajano Nasasya Pita Nasasya Janani Nasasya Daivam Natasya Patischa Sasya Namo Jayedya Samapeta Mrityum
Ladies, Mataji. Guru, a spiritual master. Na, not. Saha, he. Syat, should become. Swajanaha, a relative. Na, not. Saha, such a person. Syat, should become. Pita, a father. Na, not. Saha, he. Syat, should become. Janani, a mother. Na, not. Sa, she. Syat, should become. Daivam, the worshipable deity. Na, not. Tat, that. Syat, should become. Na, not. Patihi, a husband. Cha, also. Saha, he. Syat, should become. Na, not. Mushayat, can deliver. yaha, who, samupeta, samupeta mrityum, one who is on the path of repeated birth and death. Translation and purport by the Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. One who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Kindly repeat after me. One who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Purport. There are many spiritual masters, but Rishabhadev advises that one should not become a spiritual master if he is unable to save his disciple from the path of birth and death. Unless one is a pure devotee of Krishna, he cannot save himself from the path of repeated birth and death. Tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mam iti sorjuna. One cannot stop birth and death only by returning home, back to Godhead. One can stop birth and death only by returning home, back to Godhead. However, who can go back to Godhead unless he understands the Supreme Lord in truth? Janma karma same divyam evam yuvati tattvataha. We have many instances in history illustrating Rishabhadev's instructions. Shukracharya was rejected by Bali Maharaj due to his inability to save Bali Maharaj from the path of repeated birth and death. Shukracharya was not a pure devotee. He was more or less inclined to fruitive activity, and he objected when Bali Maharaj promised to give everything to Lord Vishnu. Actually, one is supposed to give everything to the Lord because everything belongs to the Lord. Consequently, the Supreme Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita 9:27, Yat karosi yadashnasi yajuhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Translation, O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. End of quotation. This is bhakti. Unless one is devoted, he cannot give everything to the Supreme Lord. Unless one can do so, he cannot become a spiritual master, husband, father, or mother. Similarly, the wives of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices gave up their relatives just to satisfy Krishna. This is an example of a wife rejecting a husband who cannot deliver her from the impending dangers of birth and death. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj rejected his father, and Bharat Maharaj rejected his mother, Janani Nasasyat. The word Daivam indicates a demigod or one who accepts worship from a dependent. Ordinarily, the spiritual master, husband, father, mother, or superior relative accepts worship from an inferior relative. But here, Rishabhadev forbids this. First, the father, spiritual master, or husband must be able to release the dependent from repeated birth and death. If he cannot do this, he plunges himself into the ocean of reproachment for his unlawful activities. Everyone should be very responsible and take charge of his dependents, just as a spiritual master takes charge of his disciple, or a father takes charge of his son. All these responsibilities cannot be discharged honestly unless one can save the dependent from repeated birth and death. Translation again. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Very famous, well-known instruction from the Bhagavatam, very often quoted by Srila Prabhupada. In the Vedic culture, as we see in this verse, there are certain individuals who take on responsibility of leadership responsibility. King, guru, father, including mother, in terms of her children, whoever is dependent upon us, the first and foremost, duty and responsibility is to help such dependents become free from the cycle of birth and death. That's not possible, as mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, for any individual, unless one becomes a pure devotee. And one cannot become a pure devotee unless one is fortunate to receive transcendental knowledge from a bona fide authority. A whole Vedic culture is arranged in such a way that one is meant to be given this foremost of knowledge pertaining to this deliverance from the cycle of birth and death. All of us are, that is the main problem for the conditioned soul in the material world, due to our close association with the modes of material nature, being devoid of transcendental knowledge, we are totally forced by the laws of nature to act in ways which further implicate our further implicate us in this cycle of repeated birth and death. So it means that actually, as instructed here by Rishabhadev, to become, to take up any kind of leadership position within society, some of whom, or some of which, rather, are identified here. One needs to have received transcendental knowledge. One needs to cultivate transcendental knowledge to such an extent that he is himself. We cannot deliver someone from the clutches of Maya if we ourselves are under the clutches of Maya. I think there's a reference in the Bhagavatam somewhere, the story of a frog which is caught by, what is it? Snake, right? So, right, so the frog is caught by the snake, and then there's another frog beside also, who's also been caught by the snake, but telling to the other one, just wait a little bit, I will come and deliver you. In other words, if one is under the clutches of the modes of material nature or under the clutches of Maya, we cannot deliver ourselves and we cannot deliver others from this cycle of repeated birth and death. The main focus in the Vedic culture actually is to facilitate that individuals receive such transcendental knowledge and cultivate that knowledge in such a way that one can be ultimately disconnected. It's a it's a very high, or how to say, the greatest challenge actually for all of us is how to become freed from these modes of material nature, because even one slight connection with these modes of nature, including the mode of goodness, we are remaining bound up in the material world. The Bhagavatam specifically is focusing on this knowledge and this process, which is the process of pure devotional service. So many references are given. How to fully absorb ourselves. Ahaitakiya pratihata egatma suprasiditi. It is not something that we can imitate, and it is not something that is so easily achievable. And the key factor, of course, is in the matter of proper association. Lord Chaitanya has introduced the Harinam Sankirtan, especially in that context of association with other devotees. Our acharyas explain how in Kali Yuga, to individually endeavor for liberation is extremely difficult, practically impossible. And therefore, the recommended process is this congregational chanting of the holy name. Means being with others, cultivating the practice of Krishna consciousness with others. And of course, others means those who are more elevated, those who are fortunate to have received this knowledge, those who are fortunate to be practicing Krishna consciousness over an extended period of time. Prabhupada explains how he has established or created this Krishna consciousness movement for that very purpose of providing that kind of a association. And of course, there are so many avenues or ways by which we can associate. Our temples are one important way by which we can, by visiting and regularly hearing the daily messages from Srimad Bhagavatam, by associating with devotees who are living in temples. That is one important way. But in addition to that is one of the important instructions also given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This by living, either visiting a holy place or living in a holy place, Mathura Vasa. The 5 most important activities that more quickly can bring us to that level of pure devotional service. There are some specific ways that are especially more powerful, more potent. We read about in various places. These 5, which are well known to most devotees, beginning with, question of association. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavata Sravana Mathura Vasasya Murtira Sradhaya Sevana Sakala Sadhana Shrestha Epancha Anga Krishna Prema Janamaya Epancha Alpo Sangha. Those are extremely powerful and therefore should be the 5 ways that devotees especially give attention because even a small amount of association or practice with any of these five will awaken this Krishna prema, this pure love of God within the heart of the conditioned soul. Sadhu Sangha. Mathura Vasa is, I would say, of particular interest in that we should try to understand a different meaning of Mathura Vasa. Mathura, of course, means Mathura Vrindavan. Mathura Vrindavan, okay, we have some local produce coming in. Hare Krishna. It's from the garden, or this is being sold?
Garden, adjacent garden.
Huh?
There is garden here.
Okay, right. So Mathura Vasa, of course, we are, the first meaning or understanding is if we are able to visit Mathura, which is located specifically in the district of Mathura Vrindavan. Just like in the Nectar of Instruction, I remember reading how if one is fortunate to come to Vrindavan and to bathe in the waters of Radhakund, one's life is like one is liberated, one is successful simply by bathing once in the holy waters of Radhakund. That is, so much of potency is there. And so there are certain activities that are pointed out actually in the Shastra that more quickly, when taken up, of course, with heart and soul, that can more quickly awaken this pure devotional service within the heart. So Mathura Vasa is probably easier for those who are in India, because that's part of the Vedic culture. Traditionally, before the invention of modern day technology and vehicles, people would travel to holy places. They would go on pilgrimage, on yatra, generally padayatra, they would walk. So that is the first meaning of Mathura Vasa, where more so traditionally, possibly than now, those living in Mathura, those living in Vrindavan are devotees engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Another meaning that Srila Prabhupada has given to us, Mathura Vasa, probably especially for those who are not living in India, because it's very far away in another country. But if we introduce similar activities or the same activities that are taking place in Mathura, by developing the consciousness of the residents of Vrindavan, or the residents of Mathura, then it's like also living in Mathura. All of us, especially those who are grihastas, wherever they may be living, by developing that proper consciousness, they can also derive the same benefit as living in Mathura. As Lord Chaitanya would explain, Vrindavan is not a physical location. Vrindavan is where the heart is. Vrindavan is where the consciousness is. That's the meaning of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Physical locations are secondary. So that's the second meaning of Mathura Vasa. And there's a third meaning which is also very important and in many ways is an integral part of what whole Vedic culture is all about. It is creating places, creating communities where our neighbors, where people we live with are cultivating that knowledge, means devotees, living with devotees, isn't it? When we have, as it is advocated in Vedic culture, that opportunity to live under the care and shelter of qualified brahmanas, of qualified kshatriyas, leaders, the three natural leaders who are meant to follow this particular instruction that is being given here by Rishabhadev. And the Vedic culture precisely or specifically trains such individuals. The brahmanas, the kshatriyas, and the vaishyas are the three natural leaders who can only take up their role as brahmana, kshatriya, and vaishya, having first received the knowledge of the Bhagavatam. It's interesting how when Krishna and Balaram are sent to Gurukul after leaving Vrindavan, Vasudeva and Devaki realize that they've been in the village of Vrindavan, they never got proper education, they never went to school, or they never went to Gurukul. They are actually from Kshatriya family, so they are sent to Gurukul. That is described actually in the Bhagavatam, what subjects they learn. And as Kshatriyas, the last subject they learn is Kshatriya subject, Dhanurveda. The subject of Dhanurveda comes down the list at the end. Why? Because the very first of the teachings are in connection with basic philosophy of Krishna consciousness, which is directly connected with what is the purpose of life and how to become freed from the various influences in the material world, and how to help others also become freed and liberated from the clutches of Maya. So that is part of our not only part, but it is very much the heart and the center of what we as a society and we as individuals within that society are endeavoring to do. Individually working towards advancing on the path of self-realization so that we are able to become freed from these modes of material nature, without which it is not possible to become freed from the cycle of birth and death. That is described as, I'm sure, we have heard our acharyas and shastra describe how this is meant to be the main focus and the main meditation for devotees, for someone who is cultivating spiritual life or cultivating specifically Krishna consciousness. What can I do individually, personally, to improve and increase my level of Krishna consciousness on the one hand, and what can I do also for the overall mission of Krishna consciousness, to help others to also get this opportunity of receiving this knowledge. And Prabhupada used to he used to say that we should be, he used the word taxing our brains. We should be taxing our brains to find different ways to actually introduce Krishna consciousness. And of course, that is taking place in different ways. So this particular instruction by Rishabhadev is one that we need to always keep in the forefront. And that means, although some people may not like to use or to hear the term preaching, because sometimes a certain mentality is there, but we are a preaching movement in terms of wanting to bring this understanding and knowledge to as many people as possible, because without this knowledge, without this specific knowledge of Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada mentions, or Shastra, majority people who practice spiritual life, if they are devoid or not understanding specifically about the path or the process of bhakti or devotional service, they will not be freed. They're still caught up within the material world, which is not an ideal situation. Yeah. So Rishabhadev, of course, as an ideal Vedic king, is giving this important instruction to all of his sons, the eldest of whom was Bharat Maharaj. And we are meant to likewise transfer or share this understanding to as many people as possible. So I'll just read the translation again. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Thoughts or questions? Yeah.
It appears that there is more like a kind of two-way kind of process, because you find that even very great personalities, like the Maharaj Angad, he got Veena as his son. He must have tried his best, but Veena did not take up to spiritual life. Or later on we find like Advaita Acharya, he had sons who did not take to devotion service, they were important. So what exactly is the responsibility of like the father or husband? What should he be doing? And it looks that the other party, the other receiver also has to have that kind of interest, or otherwise it's not right. Like, one can do one's best. Like we say, one can take the horse to water, cannot make him drink. So can you elaborate on the two sides, that how one should do one's part in the role of guide or leader? At the same time, what is the responsibility on the other side also to accept and be a leader?
So you're referring to what's what is ideal on both sides in terms of someone playing that role of a guide or instructor?
Yeah, what should one do one's best?
Yes.
Even after doing one's best, the result may not be
Right.
favorable, because we see in the examples. So, what exactly one should be doing to ensure that yes, I have done my best? And then as a receiver, because someone is guiding, how should be my mood to actually make the best use of it?
Right. In the context of family, which we could, I guess, learn as well in other contexts. Prabhupada one time was, because that question comes up for parents who are devotees and whose children grow up in Krishna consciousness and who are naturally wanting that their children later on in life remain devotees, because very often it's not actually the case. In that context, Srila Prabhupada was explaining how the best way for parents to give the maximum opportunity for their children, their dependents, to actually take the Krishna consciousness or remain within Krishna consciousness, is by themselves becoming ideal examples, isn't it? So the whole aspect, as outlined also by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of prachar and achar, sadachar, good behavior, good example. The best way we can help individuals is by ourselves becoming as ideal as possible. So those who are in position of imparting knowledge to dependents, they must first and foremost be ideal themselves in practicing Krishna consciousness. And they must recognize also that those to whom they are trying to give this knowledge that ultimately they will have to decide themselves. And that's a main a challenge, again, in the context of family life, because when children are small, they generally more easily follow and chant, etc. But when they grow up in the teenage years, they have to make they have to take their own decisions, etc. And especially if the environment is not conducive, which is in general it is not, unless one is living within a community of devotees, then forces of Maya are being as very strong. Very often teenagers will be deviated. So there's a dual responsibility, responsibility on the part of, let's say, those who are endeavoring to share this knowledge. They should endeavor to the best of their ability, again, by being themselves ideal devotees, and provide the best possible environment by which their dependents can more easily take to Krishna consciousness. On the part of those who are receiving this knowledge, the basic qualities are actually outlined in the Bhagavad Gita itself. I mean, we're talking about in many ways like the responsibilities or what are meant to be the qualities of a teacher and a student, because one who is in a position as described here of either guru or leader or father or mother, they are their teachers to their dependents. So both the qualities of teachers are described very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, and the qualities of a recipient of knowledge or a student is one needs to have those basic three qualities that Krishna formulates in the fourth chapter. Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya uparekshante te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So one needs to have a proper mental disposition, which means one should be humble and submissive in wanting to, in receiving such knowledge. One should be inquisitive, and one should be engaged in seva. These are the general guidelines which make up actually what is meant to be a Vedic education, and which is basically what is meant to take place between a superior as one who takes up the role of father or guru or leader in society, and one who is meant to take knowledge or take instructions from such superiors. If one has these three basic qualities of being submissive, of being inquisitive, and of being engaged in service, then there are better chances of one actually being able to receive that knowledge and becoming an ideal recipient of that knowledge. So whether it's in an educational context in terms of a gurukul or within the community, the same principles are at play. So therefore, basic knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, which is the basis and the preliminary knowledge, is therefore essential for that knowledge to be properly imparted and for that knowledge to be properly received. Bhagavatam also, in speaking, this is Narada Muni. Narada Muni, as we know, elaborates on the Vedic education, where he points out how it's important for the teacher to establish close friendship with the students, so that they can establish relationship that will, when properly established, that will be there actually for a whole of one's life. I'm not sure if the question you're asking is connected with that, but yeah. Yes.
Maharaj, you were telling about three types of Mathuravas.
Yes.
You were telling about that we should have that consciousness of Vrindavan, wanting to please Krishna now. Sometimes what happens in a community, we don't see somebody up to the mark. So we usually, instead of focusing on what should be my attitude, I usually see others not following properly, and then my also lower nature comes out. So how we should deal with that?
We need to concentrate more on ourselves. Yeah, that tendency is there, and will be more present if we are not doing the work we are meant to do in terms of working on our own, on correcting our various shortcomings, because the pure devotee, as Prabhupada explains, he sees everyone, he doesn't see the faults of others, he doesn't see the lackings, and of course, even someone who is madhyamadhikari, he will not be drawn into, let's say, fault finding. He will offer assistance within a proper context if something is lacking, for example, but generally one needs to be focused primarily on our own spiritual practice and spiritual advancement. And unless we are given that formal responsibility to, let's say, correct others, then we should avoid doing that. We may, for the interest of a particular individual, bring up something that we feel might be important, that if somebody is doing something that even without realizing is detrimental to his advancement in Krishna consciousness, we can bring it up to some particular responsible person in that community. But we should avoid directly bringing that up unless we have an established relationship with that individual who has already told us, Prabhu, if you see me doing this or doing that, kindly tell me, which is generally not the case. Because the false ego is very strong, and no one likes, by nature, no one likes to be corrected. No one likes to be told something, let's say, negative about themselves or like that. So if we rather focus on our own development and how to advance and progress in Krishna consciousness, that tendency will be less to see the whatever may be lacking or the shortcomings in others. Definitely a challenge to live in a community, especially where one is interacting very closely with others, and one has to follow certain guidelines to avoid unnecessary friction that might arise. Yeah. Yes.
Maharaj, thank you for this wonderful. Maharaj, as you said, Srila Prabhupada said, taxing our brain to find new ways to introduce Krishna consciousness. This principle is there, but I have heard another way also that Srila Prabhupada says, do not dilute my message, do not deviate my message any further, in any way, because the result will be different.
Correct. Yes.
So I get confused. In our culture or in our ways of executing Krishna consciousness, should we not introduce new ways as according to the change of time, or should we stick to the whatever has been told and same tradition and like that? I get confused sometimes.
We should become expert and do both simultaneously. We should try to find new ways to reach out to people without diluting, without changing. The message of Krishna consciousness should never be changed, but how we approach people, or through, for example, up until maybe just a few years back, or maybe up until the time of COVID or before COVID, devotees were much less active in the social media, reaching out to people. With the advent of COVID, so many things actually happened where devotees became more, we could say possibly innovative or more active in, without physically meeting people, but were very successful, and it's, I think, ongoing at present, in bringing people to Krishna consciousness. So we have to be careful not to do things that are in different ways changing that message or diluting the message of Krishna consciousness. But that aspect is there. You know, societies are constantly going through changes, especially in modern day society. It's like things are changing at a very rapid pace. And as devotees, we have to, it's an expertise that our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada had, dealing with situations according to time, place, and circumstance. Kala Desha Patra. So both are valid. I mean, finding new avenues or new ways to introduce Krishna consciousness. And if we look at book distribution, from the early days to, I mean, there's a whole history of how, from distributing pamphlets or back to Godhead devotees. You know, the first time somebody distributed a big book, it was like a big thing. The first time somebody distributed like a set of Srimad Bhagavatam, wow, you know. Now it's like devotees are distributing dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of sets of Bhagavatam. So different situations have occurred which have facilitated new ways of introducing Krishna consciousness at the same time without changing. That's a very valid point you're making, Prabhupada. Definitely caution us about changing the message. We should not, the message is the same, but there are different ways that it can be introduced. Okay, we can close for now. Jai Kantaraj Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Raghunath Bhakti Swami Maharaj ki jai.